Hello students, I am Dr. Kumud Madan, Associate Professor in Lloyd Institute of Management and Technology, and I shall taking up the lecture on the Unit 2 of your Inorganic Pharmaceutical Chemistry, subject code BP1040, that is acid, bases and buffers. In the previous lecture, we had studied about the basic introduction of acid, bases, what are the buffers, where do we need the buffers, buffered isotonic solutions, how do we basically determine the tonicity, what are the different methods of the same, and then we also studied the importance of electrolyte. Electrolyte are really important in our body and we need to maintain that balance, and for that we need to take some salts if that balance is disturbed in the body. So, proceeding with the same, I shall come to the next salt, that is potassium chloride. Earlier in the previous class we did the sodium chloride. Now we have to study potassium chloride as per the syllabus. Potassium chloride is a salt which is made up of potassium as well as chloride, say KCl. It has what? It has potassium ion as well as chloride anions. Now the method of preparation of potassium chloride involves the reaction between potassium carbonate and HCl. See, what do we need? We need KCl. So, K from potassium carbonate and chloride comes from HCl. So, the reaction likes to be potassium carbonate react with 2 moles of hydrochloric acid giving you 2 moles of potassium chloride. Hydrogen gas is evolved as well as carbon dioxide is the byproduct. This is the method of potassium chloride preparation. The physical characteristics or the features of the potassium chloride is that it is colorless, it is not having any color, it is almost white, it is odorless, no smell of its own. The crystals are cubical, elongated and prismatic in shape. It is soluble in water and the solubility is almost 1:3 ratio. It is insoluble in alcohol and it is neutral to litmus. Neither it turns the blue litmus red nor it turns red litmus blue. So, it is neutral to litmus. Now, what are the uses of potassium chloride? Potassium chloride is used as electrolyte replenisher. As I told you earlier, whenever there is not imbalance of the electrolyte in the body, we need to administer the salt from outside our environment. You take it in your diet and that is why it is used as electrolyte replenisher. Besides that, it is used in the case of potassium deficiency. Besides, it is used in familial paralysis. Familial paralysis is the occurrence of the repeated paralytic attacks. Another disease where it is used is myasthenia gravis. Myasthenia word come from muscle. So, myasthenia gravis is an autoimmune disease We all know that our body has its own natural immunity, that is capacity or ability to fight the external stimuli or external environment or the infection. But when sometimes our body itself become the immune to its own components, that is called autoimmune disease. There is no actual reason which has been traced so far that how does this happen. But however, myasthenia gravis is a disease which is related to the weakness of muscle and it arises as an autoimmune disease. This is a condition where we need to administer the potassium chloride salt. Potassium chloride is also used as antidote in digital intoxication. Whenever there is poisoning related to digitalis, we administer potassium chloride to counteract its effect. So, it is used as antidote in digitalis intoxication. In addition to these uses, potassium chloride is also used in hyperkalemia, which causes the muscle weakness, paralysis, hypotension, heart block and cardiac arrest. Another compound we need to study is calcium gluconate. As the name suggests, calcium gluconate. So, it is the salt of calcium salt of gluconic acid. We will study its preparation in the preceding slides. Calcium gluconate is white crystalline powder. It is odorless, it is tasteless, it is sparingly soluble in water and insoluble in alcohol. This is the formula. We know that glucose contains 6 carbon, right? So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and this is the acidic part. This is the structure for calcium gluconate. Now, let us see how it is prepared. This is glucose. You can see C1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can do this bonding. When this glucose is converted into gluconic acid, oxidation of this takes place. So, this forms what? Gluconic acid. Now, when this gluconic acid, since it is an acid, it is reacted with calcium carbonate, it gives what? Calcium salt. Calcium is divalent and so is the gluconate ion. So, this is the calcium gluconate. You can have a look on the reaction. Now, the uses of calcium gluconate. We know that it is containing calcium salt, so obviously it is having calcium. So, whenever there is deficiency of calcium, calcium gluconate comes into play. So, it is a salt which is used in the treatment of the calcium deficiency. It is source of calcium used in the treatment of hypocalcemia tetani. Hypocalcemia tetani is again the condition of the fatigue or the involuntary neural control lost, which is due to deficiency of the calcium. It may be used to treat the bone loss as in the case of osteoporosis. It may be used to treat weak bones as in the case of rickets and osteomalacia. It is also used in the decreased activity of parathyroid gland, which is also called as hypoparathyroidism. Now, how do we perform the calcium gluconate assay? I told you earlier, assay is what? When we analyze the presence and the amount of the salt present in it, in any compound. Say if we have a compound X and we need to determine how much calcium gluconate does it contain, or in fact we have the calcium gluconate with us and we need to check how much percentage purity is there. So, we need to carry out its assay, any reaction which shows the presence of that salt. So, that is your assay. So, calcium gluconate assay is a type of an assay which is done by the reaction, and it is basically titration of complexometric type. The titrant which we use generally in the complexometric titrant is EDTA, that is ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid, EDTA salt. EDTA salt forms the complex. So, this is generally used in titrant as in the complexometric titration. Then we use the indicator modern black 11. Endpoint which we are going to notice or which we are going to see or which is going to tell us that the presence of calcium gluconate is there, that is red to blue, the color changes from red to blue, and the buffer which we use is strong ammonia ammonium chloride solution. This is the way we perform the calcium gluconate assay. You can have a look on the assembly here. This is a burette which is going to contain the titrant. The compound which need to be titrated or which need to be determined is given in the flask beneath. This is a burette stand. And how do we do the test? We take 0.5 gram of calcium gluconate, then we dissolve it in the 50 ml of warm water and then we cool it. Third step involves we add 5 ml of 0.05 molar magnesium sulfate solution and then we add 10 ml of strong ammonia solution. We studied earlier that ammonia solution is used as a buffer here. Then we titrate it with 0.05 molar disodium EDTA, which is the titrant, which is taken here in the burette. And when the color changes from red to blue, I will just go to the previous slide. See, what is the end point? End point is red to blue, fine. So, in this titration, when the color changes from red to blue, it means the titration has been done. And then we take the factor into consideration. What is that? 1 ml of the remainder of 0.05 disodium EDTA is equivalent to 0.02242 gram of calcium gluconate. This factor is very important for the calculation of to determine the presence of calcium gluconate. See, whatever EDTA is present here, it is going to react with the calcium gluconate present in the flask, and whatever is unreacted, that is used as a factor. Now, the uses of the calcium gluconate and its storage involves that it is stored in the well closed container at a cool place. Besides that, we need to take the consideration regarding its incompatibility, where it is not compatible. So, it is not to be stored with the oxidizing agents such as oxalate and borate, and the official preparation of the calcium gluconate, that includes calcium gluconate injection and calcium gluconate tablets. This is a diagrammatic view which shows the physiological acid-base balance. It is simply a repetition we did earlier that acid-base balance has to be maintained in the body, and that is why we use buffer to maintain those pH. We also use isotonic buffered solution to maintain the tonicity of the physiological fluids. See, have a look here. Now, why this acid-base balance need to be maintained? Because most enzymes function only with a narrow pH range. Enzyme, they are active only at a specific pH. They have a pH range of their activity. Enzymes are what you all might be knowing. Enzymes are basically proteins, right? And protein is what? Which is having say combination of amino acid, one amino group and one carboxyl group. When such amino acids combine together, they form protein. So, they are specificity having with the working of them, means that they are going to work only in a specific pH range and not in every pH. Second need of the acid base balance maintenance is the, because acid base balance that also affect the electrolyte. Electrolytes are say sodium, potassium, chloride. Acid base balance also affect the membrane function as well as the alter protein function. See, it comes again, protein function is being affected and enzymes are proteins. It also affects the hormones. So, we need to maintain the physiological acid base balance. So, whenever there is imbalance in the electrolyte, the condition is called electrolyte imbalance. The two major electrolyte imbalances are shown by metabolic acidosis as well as metabolic alkalosis. So, we shall study one by one. Metabolic acidosis. So, you can have a look here. Acidosis is the term which means acid is at higher side, acidosis, right? And why it is happening? Because of the metabolism or the metabolic processes which are occurring in our body, which leads to the higher acidic condition. If the acidic condition is higher, it is going to lead to number of diseases. Now, how does this metabolic acidosis occur? What are the causes or what are the factors which lead to the metabolic acidosis? We will study one by one. Failure to excrete metabolic acids. It is but obvious. If you are not going to eliminate acid from the body, acid is going to be at higher side, but obviously. So, any condition which leads to the failure to excrete the metabolic acid is going to lead to the metabolic acidosis. Besides, formation of excessive quantities of metabolic acids like carbonic acids. If there are more carbonic acids there in the body, maybe due to diet or maybe some physiological process, that is further going to lead to the higher quantity of the metabolic acids, and these metabolic acids is going to lead to the metabolic acidosis. Besides that, when there is a loss of the base from the body fluids, we know that acid and base balance has to be maintained, right. So, if acid is more, it is going to lead to acidosis. Besides, if base is lesser, even then it is going to lead to the acidosis. So, the loss of base from the body fluid also leads to the metabolic acidosis. In addition to that, absorption of excess metabolic acids. If the acids are absorbed more, they are not excreted, again it is going to lead to the same condition. Another condition is diabetes mellitus, which is going to lead to the metabolic acidosis. Diarrhea, I told you earlier, it is what? It is the watery stool which comes out from the body, that is because of the viral infection or the contaminated food. Then excess vomiting, when a person vomits enough, he is going to excrete the various electrolyte are there which are into the losses, again it is going to lead to the metabolic acidosis. And uremia means when the concentration of uric acid is higher. So, uric acid is related to acidosis. Then another conditions are metabolic alkalosis. This is just the reverse of acidosis. Now, here the condition is what? It is alkalosis, means alkaline or base, they are at higher side, means pH is greater than 7. This is a condition of the metabolic alkalosis. How does metabolic alkalosis occur? By the administration of diuretics. I told you diuretics are the compounds which increase the frequency and the volume of the urine. Excessive ingestion of the alkaline drugs. Drugs are the salts. Now, these salts, if they are alkaline in nature and we are administering those drugs from a long time, that is going to lead to the metabolic alkalosis. Loss of chloride ion from the body is also going to lead to the metabolic alkalosis, and endocrine disorder is also one of the causes which lead to this alkaline state. So, whenever there is an imbalance or metabolic acidosis or alkalosis occurring in the body, we need to administer the electrolyte. These electrolyte comes under electrolyte combination therapy. Electrolyte combination therapy is basically the replacement therapy which is required when there is excess loss of water or electrolytes, which is caused by fever, severe vomiting and diarrhea. So, in order to overcome such situation, basically two types of solutions are used. One is the solution for rapid replacement and other is solution for subsequent replacement. As the name suggests, rapid initial replacement means if there is electrolyte imbalance in the body due to the loss of the electrolytes, we need to administer this salt immediately, initial replacement. And further, we can decrease the quantity of those electrolytes which are used for the subsequent replacement. The very first line drug combination which is used here, or the electrolyte combination is used here, that is oral rehydration therapy. You might have heard the term called ORS. जब भी बच्चों को डायरिया होता है तो what do? We administer them ORS, oral rehydration salt. Oral means which is taken by mouth, rehydration means which is going to replenish those electrolyte loss in the body, and it is a salt. You might have heard this term often. So, oral rehydration therapy involves the administration of this ORS, right? ORT, oral rehydration therapy, is the giving of fluid by mouth to prevent or to correct the dehydration that has resulted due to diarrhea. As soon as diarrhea begins, treatment using home remedies to prevent dehydration must be started. If adult or children have not been given extra drink, or if in spite of this dehydration does occur, they must be treated with special drink made with the oral rehydration salt. Now, these oral rehydration salts, they come broadly into two categories. One is the rehydration phase, and then we have the maintenance phase. Now, this oral rehydration therapy is recommended by WHO, World Health Organization. The WHO recommends that in order to administer this ORS, oral rehydration salt, clean water that has to be used must be boiled or disinfected, or from a commercially sealed bottle, that is a mineral water you get in the market. Then electrolytes, also called as salt, which are chemicals that your body needs to function, they should be taken properly, and carbohydrate usually in the form of sugar is given. So, whenever there is a dehydration of the body, in the case of the fever, in the case of the diarrhea or dysentery, we have to immediately start the replacement therapy serving the electrolytes. If we are not having any market sample of ORS, we must give chini namak ka ghol, which you might have heard, oral rehydration salt. You must take a water, add sugar and salt to it, and start administration to the patient so that no severity complex occurs. Now, you must have seen this pouch readily available in the market. This is the oral rehydration salt, and it contains the specified content of the different electrolytes as stated by WHO. WHO has recommended that these ions are to be taken in this much concentration. So, the same concentration is the component of this packet. Let us have a look here. Each sachet contains the equivalent of sodium chloride 3.5 gram, potassium chloride 1.5 gram, trisodium citrate dihydrate 2.9 gram, glucose anhydrous 20 gram. It also contains the direction how it is to be administered. Let us have a look here. Dissolve in 1 liter of drinking water. This sachet has to be dissolved in 1 liter of water, and the dose is also given. In case of infants, over a 24-hour period, like 1 liter is sufficient for the infants, for the babies. Then for the children of 8 above like not infants, the dose is to be given over an 8 to 24-hour period, right. It can be repeated in a day, means 1 liter you have taken. Again, if it is required, you can make another 1 liter. Again, if you require, you can make it another 1 liter, right, and according to the age or otherwise, or as directed under medical supervision. Besides that, we are not supposed to boil this solution. We have to take boiled cooled water. We need to add this salt to it, and then we need to administer to the patient who is suffering from dehydration. I will have a look here on the different salts which are required. Now, this is in the terms of the reduced osmolarity of the ORS, oral rehydration salt, in gram per liter. Sodium chloride is required into 2.6 gram per liter. Glucose anhydrate is required in the concentration of 13.5 gram per liter. Potassium chloride in 1.5 gram per liter. Trisodium citrate dihydrate 2.9 gram per liter, and total weight must not be greater than 20.5 gram of liter. So, I will just have a quick recap what we did in the lecture today. First of all, we started with the potassium chloride. Potassium chloride is prepared by how? By reacting the potassium carbonate with the hydrochloric acid to give the potassium chloride, and the side components are hydrogen gas and carbon dioxide. It is colorless, odorless, and the cubic crystals are there, elongated one, prismatic, it is insoluble in alcohol, and it is neutral to litmus. Then potassium chloride is used as electrolyte replenisher. It is used for the potassium deficiency. It is used in familial paralysis as well as myasthenia gravis. It is also used as antidote in the digitalis intoxication. Hyperkalemia causes muscle weakness, paralysis, hypotension, heart block, cardiac arrest. Then another salt is calcium gluconate, which is the calcium salt of gluconic acid, and it is white crystalline powder which is having no taste, no odor, and sparingly soluble in water. It is made by reaction of glucose with the, first it has to be oxidized into gluconic acid, and this gluconic acid is then made into calcium salt with the help of calcium carbonate. Now, the uses of calcium gluconate includes the calcium deficiency. It is also the source of calcium in the hypocalcemia tetani. It may be used to treat the bone loss in the case of osteoporosis. It is used to treat weak bones and decrease activity of parathyroid gland. Calcium gluconate assay involves the complexometer titration, and obviously complexometer titration involves what? EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid as the titrant. The change of the color is from red to blue, end point is that, and buffer we use the strong ammonia ammonium chloride solution. So, what do? We take calcium gluconate, dissolve in water, cool that, then we add magnesium sulfate, then we add buffer to it, and then we titrate it in this manner as shown in the assembly here. Then calcium gluconate has some incompatibility, it should not be stored with oxidizing agent, and the official preparation includes calcium gluconate injections and tablets. Now, the physiological acid base balance has to be maintained. Why? Because enzymes, they are having a specific pH for their activity, they also affect the hormones, then acid base balance also affect the further the concentration of the electrolyte. This acid base balance, if not maintained, can lead to metabolic acidosis. Metabolic acidosis occurs when the acid is higher, right, or when acid is excreted lesser, or when the base is lost from the body fluids, or when the absorption of the metabolic acids is more, when diabetes mellitus is there, diarrhea, vomiting, uremia, all these are the conditions which leads to the metabolic acidosis. Then conditions which are responsible for metabolic alkalosis include administration of diuretic, excessive ingestion of the alkaline drugs, loss of chloride ion, and the endocrine disorders. So, in order to maintain this homeostasis, we do what? We take the electrolyte, which comes under electrolyte combination therapy. Electrolyte combination therapy is further for the two types. One is for the rapid initial replacement of the electrolyte, another is for the subsequent replacement. Although they are more or less similar, this has to be given immediately, and the subsequent one has to be given at the maintenance stage or the later stage, which contains the lesser number of the electrolyte or the lesser concentration of electrolyte. Then ORT, that is oral rehydration therapy, in which we administer ORS, oral rehydration salt. This has been recommended by World Health Organization, WHO recommends that we have to give ORS whenever there is a loss of electrolyte from the body in the case of diarrhea, right. So, again this comes under two phases, rehydration phase and the maintenance phase. Components are to be put in the boiled cool water or the mineralized packaged water. Now, this is the composition of the oral rehydration therapy. The ORS contains sodium chloride, potassium chloride, trisodium citrate and glucose anhydrate, which has to be dissolved in 1 liter of water and then administer to the infant in the span of 1 day, that is 24 hours. But in case of adults, it can be given as per the medical supervision or the prescription, and it can be given thrice a day, means 1 liter plus 1 liter per 1 liter. So, the oral rehydration therapy involves the salts which are in the fixed recommended doses, that involves sodium chloride in the concentration of 2.6 gram per liter, glucose anhydrate 13.5 gram per liter, potassium chloride 1.5 gram per liter, trisodium dihydrate 2.9 gram per liter, and total weight must not exceed than 20.5 gram of liter. So, students, I guess you might have get the concepts of these salt and the importance of these electrolytes which has to be maintained in our body. Different pathological conditions lead to the disbalance of these electrolytes, and in that case we need to replenish them with the help of electrolyte replenishers. And electrolyte replenishers are what? Say for example, oral rehydration salt, which is given in the oral rehydration therapy. that is given by the two modes. One is for the immediate replacement and other is for the maintenance therapy. So, that is all for the lecture today. I hope you get the concepts, and then I shall see you in the next class with including the concept of the dentifrices. Thank you.